Hello and welcome to the program UFO Warning. In this episode, we're talking about Ukraine sees UFOs on the moon. That's correct. Ukraine sees UFOs on the moon. Now, this story seems to be gaining a lot of traction, and at first I thought, well, maybe just bait clicks. But the more I get into this, the more I think there's something there, because as they say, where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's definitely a lot of smoke around this one. Now, we'll get into a couple articles on this, but basically what happened was we have some Ukrainian scientists. They're not strangers to this subject. They've claimed to have seen UFO phenomena before, and now they're claiming that they've seen these 20 objects circling around the moon. That in itself is pretty wild. But what really caught my attention on this was the way they seem to be being attacked by the mainstream media. Even Avi Loeb, of course, we all know him from that Wuma, whatever the thing was, the giant meteorite that went around the planet here, a year or two ago. And I think he's been recently appointed as some kind of advisor to Trump. He's a professor at Harvard. He's come out against these guys. I tried to do some research online with this, with AI, and it was just absolutely belligerent. And to the point where I'm just like, shut up, I mean, so what this tells me is that there's a certain mindset, and a lot of times you do find out that AI has a very mainstream media mindset where anything that's out of the ordinary, anything unusual is just labeled a conspiracy theory immediately and dismissed as untrue. And that's how this is being treated. And when something like that happens, immediately my spidey senses go up, because I'm like, why are you all attacking this thing for? Why are you putting so much effort into refuting it when it would be so much more simple just to dismiss it if you didn't believe it? Anyway, that's my rant. I found this article over at Yahoo News. It says Ukrainian scientists claim 20 plus giant UFOs near the moon. Experts push back. So here you have, right in the title, appeal to authority. So the Ukrainian scientists, they're just these rubes out in the middle of a war zone. And then you have the experts. Those are the authority figures. Those are the people you're supposed to follow these guys. Remember, Wednesday, August 5th, 2026, it says, then of course it has a picture of a flying saucer here, classic flying saucer flying through the asteroid belt, which I didn't know we had one of those around the moon. Astronomers at Ukraine's main astronomical observatory say they spotted more than 20 anomalous objects racing near the moon. Some allegedly stretch the length of Manhattan. Before you update your group chat, know this. The study is a non-peer-reviewed preprint, and the same research team had previous work formally discredited by their own National Academy. That context matters more than the headline. So right off the bat, you can see that this is an attack piece. They're attacking the messengers. They're trying to devalue what they're saying, and they're personally attacking them by saying they've been discredited. Discredited by who? People that don't want to admit the stuff's real? What the astronomers say they saw. High-speed telescope footage from rural Ukraine captured faint, fast-moving specks that the team interprets as enormous craft. Well, you are a couple 100,000 miles away, so I suppose they would be pretty big. Using a high-speed camera, shooting 20 frames per second at an observatory in Venervivka, Ukraine, Boris Zilyav and colleagues recorded footage on September 7th and August 16th, 2025. They classified objects as atmospheric, appearing anchored to the lunar surface, and continental, streaking across it at speeds reportedly reaching 11 kilometers a second. I think that figure talked to about 24,000 miles an hour, I read. Size estimates range wildly from 440 meters, which would be about 1,200 feet, quarter mile, to 15 to 25 miles wide, depending on reflectivity assumptions the team openly admits they cannot verify. In raw frames, these supposed Manhattan-sized craft appeared as specks just a few pixels across. Objects flashed in repeating patterns lasting 0.1 to 0.5 seconds. Two objects, hundreds of miles apart, reportedly flashed in sync. Ring-shaped structures estimated at 22 to 36 kilometers, or what's that, 15, 20 miles across, allegedly rotate every 3 minutes, producing centrifugal forces exceeding twice Earth's gravity. That is pretty amazing. The authors propose the moon serves as a base for UFOs and that objects could reach Earth in roughly 20 minutes. Size and speed calculations are entirely model dependent. Composition and true reflectivity remain unknown. Now, why the scientific community isn't convinced? Well, of course they're not going to be. The team's prior UAP research was officially criticized for distance errors of roughly 10x, and the new study shares the same structural weakness. In 2022, Ukraine's National Academy of Science concluded that earlier UAP work from this group contained significant errors and did not meet professional standards for scientific publication, according to Debrief. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb argued the team's distance calculations were off by a factor of about 10, turning their supposed giant phantom craft into something far more mundane, like artillery shells. That's the scientific equivalent of mistaking a blurry streetlight for a spacecraft, a reminder that instrument resolution matters as much as interpretation. This is what I don't get. Their instruments are pointed at the moon, so the moon preprint inherits the same structural problems: single station data, no parallax distance measurements, no independent replication, and signals only pixels wide. NASA and U.S. government UAP offices maintain that no confirmed evidence of extraterrestrial technology exists. Without multiple telescopes and rigorous peer review, giant craft remains an interpretation built on assumptions, not a finding built on evidence. Whether unexplained objects exist near the moon is a legitimate scientific question worth rigorous investigation. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and a few ambiguous pixels in an unreviewed preprint don't clear that bar. Wow, I think I did get through the whole article without coming across the term conspiracy theory, though. They'll miss their CIA payment on that. But yeah, you kind of get the idea here. They're going to roast this thing. They're not even taking a look at what these guys are claiming, I don't think. Very strange stuff. Now, this article here is from thenews.com.pk. Says more than 20 giant UFOs speed across the moon. Ukrainian study sparks alien debate. Astronomers found that some objects exhibited unusual movement and brightness patterns. This article is by Aksaskadas Tahir, published August 5th. Astronomers in a recent study have claimed to find possible evidence of technologically advanced non-human civilization on the lunar surface. According to the scientists at Ukraine's Astronomical Observatory, they have observed more than 20 unidentified objects racing and speeding across the moon in 2025 when the team was working on the study. So this was clear back last year. During their observations, they found that some objects exhibited unusual movement and brightness patterns. Such unconventional and strange behavior raised the question about their true nature and origin of this technology. Speaking about the features of the object, some were disc-shaped, measuring between 15 and 25 miles across. The team also identified two main categories of these objects. The first one is atmospheric, that remained stationary relative to the moon, and they exhibited rapid, pulsing flashes lasting 0.1 to 0.5 seconds and repeating patterns. The second one is continental objects that raced across the lunar surface. One object traveled nearly 14 miles at a speed of 4.1 miles per second. They also observed ring-shaped daytime objects on August 16, 2025. Those objects absorbed nearly all radiation and completed a full rotation every 3 minutes, measuring roughly 22 miles across. They traveled at 6.8 miles per second. Now, can you see the difference in these two articles? This fellow here, he's going ahead and he's actually including some of the facts from the study. He's not just sitting here opinionating on everything. The researchers note that while these characteristics might reflect structured activity, the observations remain insufficient to establish intelligent control. UFOs are observed on Earth and in near-Earth space. We believe that the moon serves as a base for UFOs, the team noted in the study. They also suggested that these objects could potentially reach Earth within 20 minutes and appear in the atmosphere as UAPs. Now, I'm not sure where they get that 20-minute thing from, because if they're tracking these things at around 24,000 miles per hour, and the moon's 240,000 miles away, I mean, that'd be over 10 hours rather. The researchers employed high-speed cameras attached to telescopes to record all these observations in a study which is non-peer-reviewed, and findings have not been independently confirmed. The team argued that non-random and intelligent behavior of objects could indicate technologically advanced civilization. They claimed these objects could reach Earth within 20 minutes and manifest as unidentified aerial phenomena. Yeah, okay. I referred to this writer as a male. It's actually a female. It has her picture here at the very bottom. Aksa Quadis Tahir is a reporter dedicated to science coverage, exploring breakthroughs, emerging research, and innovation. Her work centers on making scientific developments understandable and relevant, presenting well-researched stories that connect complex ideas with everyday life in a clear, engaging, and informative manner. Definitely pay her a visit over here at thenews.com.pk. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty well-written article, actually. A lot more fair than the one from Yahoo. Yeah, really strange stuff. We'll go ahead and take a look at some of this other stuff. Now, there's an article here from WION. It's dated August 7th, 2026. Ukrainian astronomers see gargantuan objects dashing at 39,600 kilometers. So like I said again, like 24,000 miles or something. They can reach Earth in 20 minutes. That I'm not sure where they got that number from. This is written by Anamika Singh. Aliens seem to be swarming over the moon if a bunch of Ukrainian astronomers are to be believed. According to the team from the country's main astronomical observatory, several UFOs are racing near the moon, which they believe acts as a base for them. They saw more than 20 of them and claim they could reach Earth in 20 minutes. The non-peer-reviewed preprint states that high-speed telescope footage from rural Ukraine captured faint, fast-moving specks that they think are huge spacecraft moving at an unbelievable speed. The paper states that the objects were captured by a high-speed camera shooting 20 frames per second. The observation was made from a rural area in Vinervrika, Ukraine on September 7th and August 16, 2025. Boris Zelazny and his team claimed the UFOs were moving at a speed of 11,000 clicks, 6,000 miles per hour to 39,600, so, well over 20,000 miles per hour. They appeared to be tethered to the moon's surface. The researchers described them as atmospheric, meaning they appeared stationary relative to the moon's surface. They also called them continental, hinting that they covered vast distances across the moon at high speed. They estimated them to be nearly 40 kilometers wide, nearly 30 miles wide. Going by the reflective perimeters from Earth, they only appear to be small specks, only a few pixels across. It says, detailing what they saw, the researchers said that the objects flashed in repeating patterns, lasting 0.1 to 0.5 seconds. Two of them, hundreds of kilometers apart, flashed in sync. Some of them 22 to 36 kilometers, so 15 to, say, 25 miles across, were shaped like a ring and rotated every 3 minutes. Sounds like one of these Star Wars craft. The motion produced centrifugal force more than twice Earth's gravity. They also propose that the UFOs are using the moon as a base to make the trip to Earth in almost 20 minutes. Now, I don't know how they figured out that it was producing all this gravity, but I guess. The paper is filled with the most bizarre claims ever made, and the researchers linked to it admit they cannot verify what they saw. The size and speed of the UFOs is based on the model they built to study their observations. Other scientists have also discredited the paper, stating that without multi-telescope distance measurements, these specks are far more likely to be optical artifacts, satellites in Earth orbit, or merely atmospheric noise. In August 22, their paper titled Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, Observations of Events, claimed to have detected dozens of unidentified aerial phenomena in Earth's atmosphere over Kiev and the surrounding countryside using 2 meteor observation stations. It was dismissed by leading scientists, including Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb. He calculated that if a 9.84 to 39.37 feet object were actually moving through Earth's atmosphere at 15 kilometers a second, about 10 miles per second, yeah, air friction would generate an enormous, blindingly bright fireball visible for several kilometers. Well, that would be true if these things acted the same way physically as stuff on Earth acts. But if they're extra dimensional or interdimensional, I can see where that very well might not be true. Yeah, this is some weird stuff. Now, I want to finish up with this last article because, Ukraine's been in this awful war over there for years now with Russia. And there have been a lot of reports of UFOs and some really weird stuff. And so I found this article, space.com. It's dated September 17th, 2022, so almost 4 years ago. It says cosmic and phantom UFOs are all over Ukraine's skies, government report claims. Observers observed dozens of objects that cannot be scientifically identified. So this has been going on for 4 years now. It's got a picture here, and I don't know if this is real or AI, but it says a night over Kiev, Ukraine in 2020, and you can see these lights almost like little bright funnels hanging down from this cloud bank, and they've got what looks like almost like a whitish bluish laser coming down on these things. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them in the front, and then maybe another 3, 4, 5, 6 in the back at least, just like a giant swarm of these things. That would have really been frightening to look out and see these. The skies over Kiev are swarming with unidentified flying objects, according to a new report from the main observatory of the National Academy of Science in Ukraine. Of course, given that Russia and Ukraine have been locked in a months-long war, years long now, that relies heavily on aircraft and drones, it's likely that many of these so-called UFOs are military tools that appear too fleetingly to identify, a U.S. intelligence agency has speculated. Well, that's speculation, and it's an assumption. Published to the preprint database AirXIV, so we've got the same database these guys are uploading to, preprint. The report, which has not yet been peer-reviewed, describes recent steps that Ukrainian astronomers have taken to monitor fast-moving, low-visibility objects in the daytime sky over Kyiv and the surrounding villages using spatially calibrated cameras at 2 weather stations in Kyiv and Vinervika, a village about 75 miles to the south. Astronomers observed dozens of objects that cannot scientifically be identified as known natural phenomena, the report said. Well, it seems like if this stuff was so explainable, somebody would have already explained it, It's not making any sense to me. Government agencies tend to refer to such objects as UAP, short for unidentified aerial phenomena. We observe a significant number of objects whose nature is not clear, the team wrote. We see them everywhere. The researchers divided their UAP observations into 2 categories, cosmic and phantoms. According to the report, cosmics are luminous objects that are brighter than the background sky. These objects are designated with birds' names such as swift, falcon, and eagle, and have been observed flying solo as well as in squadrons, the team wrote. Phantoms, by contrast, are dark objects, usually appearing completely black, as if absorbing all light falling onto them, the team added. By comparing observations from the 2 participating observatories, the researchers estimated that phantoms range from 10 to 40 feet wide and can travel at speeds of up to 33,000 miles per hour. For comparison, an intercontinental ballistic missile can reach speeds of 15,000 miles per hour, according to the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation. The researchers did not speculate as to what these UFOs may be. Rather, their paper focused on the methods and calculations used to detect the objects. However, according to a 2021 report from the U.S. Office of Director of National Intelligence, or ODNI, it is likely that at least some UAP are technologies deployed by China, Russia, another nation, or a non-governmental entity. Boy, or swamp gas. Why not throw that in there? Given the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine, which began in February 2022, it's reasonable to suspect that some UAP described in the new report may be linked to foreign surveillance or military technologies. According to the ODNI report, other possible explanations for UAP include airborne clutter, such as birds, balloons, atmospheric phenomena such as ice crystal, or classified government projects. Neither the U.S. nor Ukraine reports raise the possibility of extraterrestrial visitors. No, we wouldn't want to do that, would we? The U.S. government has openly renewed its interest in UAP investigations since 2017, when several videos taken by U.S. Navy aircraft leaked to the media. Of course, we all know that story. Two guys in a parking lot. Two guys in a parking lot in the New York Times. The now infamous videos, I don't know why you'd call them infamous, they're just there, showed unidentified aircraft moving in seemingly impossible ways with no explanation. The government subsequently declassified the footage and recently revealed that more military footage of UAP encounters does exist, though the Department of Defense, DoD, will not be releasing them due to national security concerns. Remember, this is back in 2022. Earlier this year, Congress approved funding for the DoD to open a new office focused exclusively on managing reports of UFO sightings by the U.S. military. The authors of the new UAP report out of Ukraine added the country's National Academy of Science is interested in contributing to this ongoing research. Well, this is written by Brandon Spector. Has his picture down here. Actually, not a badly written article at all, really. I mean, pretty decent. Wasn't, like I said, I got through the whole article. I didn't come across the word conspiracy theory one time. That was good. Weird stuff. Weird stuff going on in Ukraine over there. And I just wanted to show that there's been a history of this. Clear back in 2020, I guess when this war started, we started having a lot more of these sightings. And now this most recent thing with the moon. But like I said, what really gets me about the whole sighting on the moon thing is, sure, I can see where there's probably some weak parts of this case. But the level of anger and resistance and annoyance that I'm picking up on here from the mainstream media, even from AI, which unfortunately so often reflects mainstream media, that's got my attention almost as much as the report itself, because it seems like when everybody gangs up on the source, then I start to think maybe the source is onto something. And we have to ask ourselves, would the powers that be even bother to tell us if they did know there was something going on the moon? I mean, that would explain why we haven't been there in such a long time. Anyway, very interesting stuff. Hope you enjoyed the program. If you did, don't forget to hit like, follow,